Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Menachos Daf Nun. We begin 4 lines off the top of the Amud by the 2 dots, which makes a reference back to the Mishnah, speaking about a case where they missed the morning Talmud. As we know, there are 2 kvasim, 2 sheep brought daily, one in the morning, one in the evening, as a karban Talmud. Let's say they missed the morning one. Lo yikrivu kevas b'boker. The Mishnah says they still do the afternoon. And Rav Shimon continues and he says, well, it depends if it was accidental or intentional. And then he speaks about the k'teres, which again comes as a double dose. So you take the full amount, split it half. You offer in the evening, half in the morning. Let's say they missed the one in the morning. You can still do the evening one. Rav Shimon adds, well, in that case, you take the full amount instead of half. You take the full amount and do it in the afternoon, just as way back when they inaugurated, when they were machanech the Mizbeach Hazov, they started with the evening one, and it was a full dose. So we see that that's the way you do it, a full dose. And here as well, if this is the only dose of today, you do a full amount. But then the Mishnah continues with something to do with the Mizbeach HaOila, that you machanech it with Talmud Shel Shachar, and the Shulchan you machanech with Lachma. What's why are we getting involved in chinuch now? Okay, so let's see the quote again. Okay, that's the quote from the Mishnah. So, what's the point of mentioning the chinuch of the Mizbeach HaOila, the Talmud? Chinuch man the Charshmei. Why are we getting involved in an extensive discussion regarding chinuch here? Answers the Gemara. Really, we're sort of missing some words in the Mishnah. Rabbi HaKadosh would record the Mishnayos in a very concise, brief manner, but it was laden with hidden meanings, and sometimes you have to learn it as though it's missing some words, which were sort of embedded and absorbed into the Mishnah. The Mishnah is meant to be learned as though it's missing the following passage. So the Mishnah begins like this. Okay, so they missed the morning keves. They can't just begin with the evening. So you can't start with the evening keves. But that's not standard. That's only when it's the first time, when the Mizbeach is being used for the first time. But when do we say that the morning keves is vital to the process? If the Mizbeach has not yet been used, in order to activate it for the first time, you have to start with the morning, as we're going to see in the pasuk later. Rashi brings it. It says, "Es hakevas ha'echad taseh b'boker, v'es hakevas ha'sheni taseh ben arbaim." That's the psukim by the chinuch when they were activated for the first time. Number 1 is the morning. Number 2 is the evening. In that order. If you don't have number 1, you can't start with number 2. You have to wait till the next morning and start with the morning keves. So that's only when you're involved in chinuch. As part of the chinuch process, you have to do it this way. But when is this vital? Mizbeach was not yet used. But if the Mizbeach is old, it's been used already. Even if you miss the morning keves, you can start. Never too late to start. You can start with the evening one. Amar Rav Shimon. This Rav Shimon adds, and he says, look, you're allowing the same kohanim that missed the morning to come back and do the afternoon. When is that so? When it was an accident, an emergency, it was out of their control, it was unintentional. So then we let them come back, and it's never too late. If they did it by way of negligent, they overlooked, they were negligent, and they missed the morning, lo yikrivu kevas haboker. So they neglected to do the morning keves. Then we don't allow them. Those same kohanim, we give it to other kohanim, the other family, but they themselves, we penalize them. Lo yikrivu ben arbaim. But that's unique to the karban Talmud. If you're negligent, you're out. But lo yiktiru kteres b'boker. But suppose they neglected to bring the morning dose of kteres. In this case, we don't penalize them. We'll get to that in a minute. Why not? And even those same kohanim can come back and yaktiru bin arbaim can bring the evening portion. Says the Gemara, Munanamili. So, how do we know that in fact, if it's chinuch related, you have to start with the morning keves? How do we know? Munanamili, Tanu Rabban, oh, this is the pasuk, V'asakeves hasheni. So number one is morning, number two is evening. Sheni bin arbaim. The second one comes in the evening. You can't start with the evening. But that's only applicable in a case where it's the first time. That's the process of chinuch. But if you pass chinuch, even at the first one, it's coming in the evening, it's okay. When do we allow those kohanim to come back and do the evening? When it was unintentional. If they willingly neglected the morning, we penalize them. The Bach adds, in that case, we don't allow them to come back in the evening. Rather, we give it to other kohanim to do. However, if they miss the morning kteres, then we allow them to come back and do the evening. We'll get to that in a minute, why that's different. But first comes the question. If they willingly neglected the morning talmud, they can't do the evening. At this point, the Gemara figures nobody will do the evening talmud. Really? Just because the kohanim overlooked it and they were negligent, mizbeach batel. You're going to penalize the mizbeach, so to speak, and allow it to stay idle. You're going to miss out on the talmud. He just meant like this. We penalize these kohanim. We don't allow them. But certainly the other kohanim can come and do it. That's regarding the talmud. But if they miss the kteres opportunity, we don't penalize them. They themselves can come back and do the evening portion. Why is this different than the korban talmud? Why don't we penalize them? The answer is like this. There's no need to penalize them. It was very unlikely, very uncommon for them to neglect the morning kteres. The kibbutz l'shchicha, since it's not a very frequent, common type of offering, in contrast to a talmud, which is commonplace. Number two, me'asra. The pasuk says, Baruch Hashem cheloi, right? Yosimu k'toreh v'apecha, Baruch Hashem cheloi. Involvement in the offering of kteres has the merit to bring down bracha and blessing and riches. So everybody's vying for it. Chavilu, that's why it's something which is sought after and dear. Pashi. There's no concern of kohanim neglecting it, so this is just a fluke. There's no need to step in and penalize. In this instance, when you're starting with the evening kteres, you do the full amount, the full manah. Similar to when they did the chinuch, where they started the kteres in the evening. That's the way it is. Taisus asks on Rashi, how do we know? But that's the way Rashi learns the Gemara. It was known that at the time of chinuch they started with the evening kteres and a full amount. She'ein mechanchen es mizbeach hazov ela b'kteres hasamesh v'narbayim. So just like by chinuch, they would start with the evening kteres, as we're going to see in the Pesukim coming up soon, and we know it's a full amount, says Rashi. Likewise, if it so happens that in a different instance in the Beis HaMikdash, they missed the morning, they start with the afternoon, you start with a full amount. Here we say the chinuch of the kteres began with the evening offering. The Brisa says the morning offering. Tanoi is machlekes Tanoi. I think it's more likely, says Abaye, that they initiated with the evening Ketores. Pasuk says that you are makter, the morning Ketores, when they clean out the lamps of the menorah. Now you can only clean lamps that have been used for burning, that have been kindled the previous evening. If not for them kindling the menorah at the previous evening, hatava b'tzafra. Hatava means the cleansing of those lamps, b'tzafra, the next morning mehecha. How is that meant to happen? Apparently, the menorah begins with the kindling the evening before, and we know the pasuk says that Ketores and kindling of the menorah happen the same time, in tandem. The pasuk says, so if the menorah process inevitably begins at evening, likewise the Ketores process begins at evening as well. You can't just start in the morning to start the previous evening. Right? So Rashi explains, since the chinuch of the menorah had to have begun in the evening, and the Ketores is sort of tied to the menorah, apparently the chinuch of Ketores also begins during the evening dose. Okay, so that explains the opinion that the first Ketores was the evening one. However, the opposing view that holds that when they were machanach the Ketores, it was starting with the morning dose. Why? Because he compares and learns from the Mizbech ha'olah, Mizbech which had the carbon tamid, which we just established was inaugurated via the morning tamid. Likewise, the Ketores Shel Shachar inaugurates Mizbech HaKetores. Malahal, just like in that Mizbech, with Shel Shachar, you begin with the morning tamid. Afkan, here as well by the Mizbech HaZav, which is meant for the Ketores, you begin with Ketores HaSamim of the morning Shel Shachar. Mishnah says, regarding the mechanech, the shulchan, you initiate by placing the breads on Shabbos. That's how you do the chinuch. Now it sounds like this is a requirement for chinuch, but otherwise you can place the breads on the shulchan even on Tuesday and it will sanctify the breads, really? So during the weekdays, you can't accomplish chinuch, I understand at that point. That needs Shabbos. How Kedushim Migdash? Higufa, but the breads will become Kaddish by placing it on the shulchan during the week. It's meant to go on Shabbos. Oh, Higufa Gamash Malan. The answer is like this. That's exactly what the Mishnah is telling us. The reason why you mechanech via a Shabbos placement only is because that's when it's meant to go on the shulchan. That's how it's makad. That's the procedure. It's not two things. It's not chinuch is Shabbos and Kiddush happens anytime. No, it's all one and the same process. The chinuch, the Kiddush, the shulchan b'Shabbos, exactly as such. Chinuch happens on Shabbos because Kiddush happens on Shabbos. Exactly, that's when you're meant to place the breads on the shulchan b'Shabbos. Seifa, likewise, as the Mishnah refers to the menorah, in the same fashion. Why do we do the chinuch of the menorah by kindling the 7 lamps? Because that's the way you meant to activate and use the menorah, right? You begin by kindling the menorah, all 7 lamps in the evening. That's the appropriate process vis-a-vis the menorah, and that's how you mechanech it. Likewise by the shulchan, you mechanech it by way of using it properly by placing the breads on Shabbos. Tanu Rabbanan. Zehu, this is, in a minute we'll see what exactly the Bryce is referring to, but it's a certain event, a certain offering, unique offering of Ketores, different than the others. Zehu Ketores also liyachal mizbeach hachitz. This was a unique, personal, private offering of Ketores, placed on the external mizbeach, which isn't your typical location for Ketores, which is typically on the internal mizbeach hazav. It was a one-time event. Heicha, now, which event are we talking about? Which private Ketores was offered on the Mizbech HaChitzon? Amar Papa, B'ben Nasim, way back in the Midbar, when the Nasim, the leaders of the Shvatim, offered their Ketores, right? This is Kaf Achas Asoro Zov Malaya Ketores, at the end of, in Parshas Nasei. personal Ketores offered on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Okay, here comes a question. Let's infer from this price. So this was the one and only event, one and only instance where personal Ketores offering was put on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Elo yochad al Mizbeach HaChitzon hudeloi. It would sound like, going forward past that event, personal Ketores cannot be offered on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. But you could on the internal Mizbeach. Al Mizbeach HaPnimi Mikriv. Second inference. So furthermore, Al Mizbeach HaChitzon. So personal Ketores on the external Mizbeach is only a one-time thing. A person can't do it on his own. Hatziba Mikrivu? Do you mean that a public offering of Ketores is meant for Mizbeach HaChitzon? Both of these inferences are problematic. To suggest that Tzibur places their Ketores on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, well, that's incorrect, right? Inconsistent with what we know. And likewise, a suggestion that a Yachid can bring his personal Ketores on Mizbeach HaPnimi, Vatani, we have a brayso which disallows both notions. Yachid misnadav maybe kiyetze b'nadava. Perhaps a person on his own can decide to donate likewise this type of Ketores. And he can do so, and he's obligated to do so because he has committed himself to it. And we apply the pasuk he meant to fulfill your verbal, pledges. No, you're not meant to place personal Ketores on Mizbeach. So that's out. Furthermore, maybe. So perhaps only a private person can't offer his Ketores, because he never does. There's never an obligation for a private person to bring Ketores. Aval tzibur maybe. But perhaps if the tzibur, the public, decides to donate, we're over on Amid Vez, donate some Ketores, they can do so. Just like at times they're obligated to do so, so perhaps they could also donate at will. Aval tzibur maybe because they're obligated in similar situations to actually bring Ketores. So they relate to it more than a private person. No, you can't just offer Ketores. So no donating Ketores, whether a Yachid or a Tzibur. Furthermore, so perhaps we can't donate Ketores and place it on the internal Mizbeach, because that's meant for a very specific purpose. Right? As the pasuk says, L'salu alav, don't place on this Mizbeach, the Mizbeach which is designated for Ketores, the Mizbeach HaPnimi, don't, add to it. But perhaps you can offer private or public donated Ketores on Mizbeach HaChitzon. Yochal lo yalu al Mizbeach HaPnimi, perhaps you can't add on the Pnimi al yalu Mizbeach HaChitzon, but you can add personal Ketores or publicly donated Ketores on Mizbeach HaChitzon. Leimar, Eshem HaMishcha, we learn from here. We follow the directives of the Torah, whatever the Torah instructs us. Whenever Torah instructs us to put Ketores, we do that. But otherwise, you can't just donate. You can only do as you're told. Public Ketores, twice a day. On the Mizbeach HaPnimi, that's the end of that. So clearly, those original notions that we had, right, that a private person can donate a Mizbeach on Mizbeach HaPnimi, and the Tzibur can donate on Mizbeach HaChitzon, that would be okay. Here we see clearly otherwise. So what did the Brisa mean? Amra Papa. So why did the Brisa stress that a Yachid can't bring on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, which would sound like everything else? Of course, it goes without saying, it's obvious. Let me buy it Tzibur. Of course. to suggest that the tzibur can bring teres on mizbeach hachitza? The lie, of course not. The le'ashchan, we never find such a phenomenon. Of course, it's something to talk about. That's out of the question. And likewise, and to suggest that a yachid can bring teres on mizbeach hapnimi, again, that goes without saying. It's off the charts. The le'ashchan, we never find a similar phenomenon. So that goes without saying. The main focal point of the Brisa was to highlight Ela afilu yochel mizbeach hachitzayin. What about a yochel on the mizbeach hachitzayin? Because the Ashkab and Nasim, we find a precedent, but in Nasim that they did so. Can every yochel decide to do so going forward? No. So the point of the Brisa is to indicate that, look, that was a one-time event, a one-time exception, and that's it. Continues the Mishnah. Chavite kohen gadol. So this was a special mincha that a kohen gadol, the kohen gadol, will bring on a daily basis. And there was a certain amount of flour that went into the mincha. It was asiris, a tenth of an ephah, but it was split. Half was brought in the morning and half in the evening. So the question is, does he begin with half amounts, or does he bring the full amount and then split it? Chaviti kohen gadol lo yahayu bain chatzon. You wouldn't bring it half at a time. He would bring the full amount to Beis Hamikdash. Ela maybe Yisrael Shalom, bring the full Yisrael. Asiris Eifa, Yisrael is a tenth of an Eifa. V'chatzei, and split it into two. Makriv mechza b'boker, mechza b'rabayim, and he would offer half in the morning, half in the evening. Machasi sa, right? Half of the whole that he already brought. What about Kohen Shevi Mechza? Shachris. So we have one Kohen Gadol, Reuven, took care of his morning dose. V'meisen, he passed away. Uminu Kohen Acher Tachtav. Immediately, they appointed another replacement Kohen Gadol. So by the time the evening came, we had another Kohen Gadol in office. What does he do? Does he start from scratch, bring a full amount, or does he only bring half? Which is all that we need, right? Well, be basic. You can't just offer a half. Right? Can't get away with just bringing half the amount from his house. And likewise, nor can he tap into the remaining half, leftover half that Reuben left behind. It has to be his personal offering. Ella, rather, the correct method is, maybe Yisar and Shalim. He brings along a big, huge amount of full Yisar, and he splits it right there. Makriv mechza, and he's makriv only half, which is what's needed, and the other half gets lost. Mechza, the other one is, other half is burnt, whatever. So it turns out, at the end of the day, Shnei Chatzoin Kraven, two halves were offered. One half by Reuven, one half by Shimon. Shnei Chatzoin Oivden. But the other two halves are destroyed, are lost. The second half of Reuven, the second half of Shimon. Turn around. How do we know? That you bring the full amount and then split it. If the pasuk would say he brings a mincha machzis, I would learn it to mean that he brings a half. To begin with, that's what he brings, a half at a time. So I would say maybe chatzi yisrael beis shachris makriv. In the morning he brings a half and his makriv. But chatzi yisrael beis arvis makriv. In the evening likewise he brings another half from his house and his makriv. No, the pasuk says machzis, half of the whole. So mapekei machzis shalah, the half of this whole that's already here. Machzis b'boker, machzis b'erev. We learn mechza mishalom makriv. Sure, it's only half at a time, but it's half of this whole that's already here and offered. Okay, so how does he go about doing this? Maybe Yisar and Shalom Chatzei, he brings a full Yisar from his house, splits it there, and does half at a time. Fine. Now, nitma mechza sheben arba'im masha'avad. Okay, it's middle of the day. He has, the remaining half, awaiting the afternoon offering, and something goes wrong. It becomes tummy, it gets lost. What does he do now? Starts from scratch again. Perhaps he goes back home, grabs a half of his arm, and brings it. No, once again, you need half of the whole. Mechza Mishalmu maybe has to be a half coming from a hole. Keitzad. So how does he do that? Maybe Yisar and Shalom and Beis V'Chatzeu. Umrakar Mechza. Once again, it brings a full Yisara. Second time today. And in the Beis Hamikdash, he splits it into two and is Umakar Mechza and offers a half, which is all that he needs for the afternoon. Mechza of another half is destroyed in Mitzu. So the sum total is, once again, 2 halves are in, 2 halves are out. Shnei Chatzayin Kreim, Chatzayin Oivd. Another case, which will have a similar result of 2 in and 2 out. Right, I'll go ahead in the Mishnah. Ruvain brought his half, offered his half in the morning, and passed away. Uminu achatach, they appointed another Kohen Gadol midday. What does Shimon do? Perhaps he begins only with a half? No. Yochel, Yavi, Chatz, Yisar, Mebeisai. Can he really come up with a half of Yisar from his house? Or Chatz, Yisar, Shorish? Okay, tap into the other half that Reuben left behind. Tamulayma has to be his. Umachti Saba Erev. Half of his whole. Mechta Mishal maybe Umakr has to bring a full and then split it, and half goes on his Mizbeach and the other half is lost. Okay, son. So what's the sum total? Maybe Yisar and Shalom Chatzeu Makriv. He brings a full Yisar again, splits it into 2. Half is Makriv, Mechta, the other half is destroyed. Nimtzu, sum total is Shnei Chatzayin Oivdin, or Shnei Chatzayin Kraven. Turns out, at the end of the day, 2 halves are in, 2 halves are out. Tanei Tanakh Meid Rav Nachman. So what happens with the other 2 that are out? So one of the Chachamim presented a brayso to Rav Nachman, Mechza Rishon and Mechza Sheni. The remaining 2 halves, so the remaining half of Ruvain and the leftover half of Shimon, 2 Bartzarosim. So you can't just burn it on the spot. You have to let it lose its form, which is a term that the Gemara uses to describe the psul of lina. Let it stay overnight to become pasul, which certainly warrants its destruction, its burning. V'yetzu beis hasrev, and take it out and burn it. So the question is, why wait till then? So it's interesting to note that in the Gemara Pesachim, there's a distinction between different types of failures, so to speak, deficiencies in karbonis. For example, if a carbon becomes tummy, you burn it on the spot. That in itself warrants, it justifies burning. But if the fault is sort of due to an external factor, like the owner, becoming, disabled or whatever, you can't proceed with the carbon, but you have no right to burn it now because it's not yet personally deficient. The carbon itself isn't inherently, so you have to let it sort of in a dilemma. You can't process it, but you can't burn it, so you let it stay overnight till it becomes really personal and you burn it. So back to our discussion. We have lots of material here that are leftovers. You have the remaining half of Ruvain's Chavitin, you have the leftover half of Shimon's, Amar of Nachman. So Bishleim and Risha, I understand why the first half, meaning we're talking about 2 leftover halves, right? Ruvain's leftover half and Shimon's leftover. So let's call Ruvain's the first one and Shimon's the second one, okay? Just in line with the Gemara's reference. So Rav Nachman responded to the Chacham, Bishleim and Risha, I understand the first half, why you have to wait until it really becomes possible, Bishleim and Risha, Ichsel Akrava, because initially it was suitable for offering, suitable for Akrava. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? The Kohen Gadol was alive and well when he offered it, when he brought it, so it was fine. So now that the Kohen Gadol passed away, that's not something inherently wrong with that material, so you can't just burn it. Elo, you have to wait until it becomes possible. Elo sheni lamalil b'tzura, but the second half, why delay the burning? Why wait till it becomes possible? It's inherently deficient. It never had a chance for Akrava Mikara. Initially, as soon as it was presented, li'ibud ka'aseh, it was destined for destruction. When Shimon brought his full Isarim, it was plainly evident that half will be destroyed. He can't be makriv more than half. So it's initially slated for destruction. Just burn it right now. Oh, Dam Lachmani. So Nachman responds, where did you get this from? Where's your source? Who's the opinion that you're quoting? Apparently it's that sheet. The Amr who said, even something which is inherently deficient, even pigul. You can't just burn it on the spot. You have to wait till it becomes possibly. That's his sheet. That explains why in this case as well. Rav Ashi Amar, no, even the Rabbanon would agree this case is different. Pigul, you can burn instantly, but not this one. Why? Because, let's picture it. When Shimon shows up, he's the replacement Kohen Gadol. He shows up with the full Yisar, right? And then splits it into two. Now, which one is in and which one is out? It's your prerogative. You can choose whichever one you want. So, technically, each half had a potential for akrava. Iba, if he chooses, if he wishes high makriv, he can be makriv this half, or the other half, Iba high makriv. In which case, mechza chazu, so both halves were technically suitable. Now, when he then proceeded and chose to choose one, and the other one sort of by default is out, okay, but it's not inherently reflective of his inherent fault, right? So, since he had suitability and now he's circumstantially not going to be attended to, so that's not considered inherently puzzle. And in order to burn it, you have to wait until it really acquires an absolute psul, which is lina. Interesting discussion. Okay, Itmar. Back to the chavita Kohen Gadol. So the pasuk speaks about the chavitim being processed in a machvas, in a frying pan. So it's fried. The Torah also speaks about it being baked to fine, ashafir, right? Baked in an oven. So you meant to fry it and bake it. Which one's first? Fry, bake, or bake, fry? Itmar. We have machlekes. Chavita Kohen Gadol ketzel eisen. How would they process the chavitim? These breads. Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yechon oifa, v'achakach metagna. First you bake and then you fry. Rabbi Asi Omar, Rabbi Chanina, metagna v'achakach oifa. First fry and then bake. Rabbi Chia bar Abba, kapasei di mistabra. I like my position better, based on the psukim that indicate baking and then frying. The pasuk calls it tufine minchas pitim. So you bake it tifena no, when it looks pleasant before frying, which makes it oily and unpleasant looking. Okay, so first you bake and then you fry. Rabbi Asi Amar Kavasei Di Mistabra. Rabbi Asi sides with his own position. He says, look at the pasuk, tufine. Tufine can be learned like a joint word. Tifena no. You bake it when it's partially, cooked. So first you fry it, gives it a little bit of a cook, and then you bake it. Ketanoi. And actually, it's machlekes tanoi. Which one goes first? So the pasuk calls it tufine. Tanakam learns tefena no. First you get it to the no, the partially cooked stage. You first fry it, and then you bake it. Rabbi Yomer, tefena no. You bake it when it's still looking fresh and pleasant. So first you bake and then you fry. Rabbi Yomer, he says, guess what? We'll do both. We'll bake to get it the clean bake. We'll fry and then bake it again to get it the partially cooked bake. Rabbi Yisrael tefena Rabba, multiple bakings, because he likes both interpretations of the pasuk. Islay no, he likes the partially cooked approach. Islay no, likewise a pleasantness, definition. So you do both, bake, fry, and bake. Okay, we'll pick it up tomorrow, B'ezras Hashem. In the meantime, we learned about the missed morning Talmud. We start with the evening. According to Reb Shimon, if it's b'mezid, you find other kohanim. All agree regarding chinuch. You start with the morning because that's the pasuk. It's akevas echad hasba beiker. Regarding kteris, chinuch would be beginning the evening. We spoke about the chinuch of the shulchan, of the menorah. Kteris is only allowed by Yitzibur and Mizbeach HaPnimi, except for one exception. You may see him in the Mishkan. And we spoke about the Chavita Kohen Gadol, which were fried and baked. He would bring a full Yisar, split into two, half for the morning, half for the evening. And sometimes you can have two halves offered, two halves destroyed. If there was a replacement Kohen Gadol, or something went wrong with the material throughout the day. Because the law is, it has to be Mechzisa, You have to have a full entity and split into two, rather than bringing just half at a time. All the best to you, and atzlach.